Behind the Badge, Illinois, giving you the inside scoop on public safety and those who protect and serve. Hear real stories directly from law enforcement experts and get a chance to ask questions about issues you've always wanted to know more about. You have the right to remain informed. This is Behind the Badge, Illinois.
All right, welcome to another episode of Behind the Badge, Illinois. I'm your host, David Hochberg. The entire show sponsored by Team Hochberg. If you're looking to purchase a new home, refinance your existing home, give us a call. Substantial discounts to all first responders. Okay, we're talking about SWAT today, which was my favorite show growing up. I loved the big blue black van, and I loved the machine guns and the bulletproof vests. I thought that was awesome growing up. And Emergency was another favorite of mine, Squad 51. And of course, on the TV, not only the TV, but all the movies about SWAT and all the SWAT participation in the movie. So let's dive deeper into it. And we've got a couple of SWAT technicians on here today, and we've got head of NIPUS, which is Chief Crease will go into it further, but I saw them in action on the 4th of July a couple of years back. I never knew it existed, and I didn't think that there were that many police cars and first responder equipment. I've never seen as much first responder equipment in one place, and never want to see it again. But it was quite impressive. So the public should know what's happening behind the scenes. So Chief Bird, why don't you tee us off here, buddy?
Yeah, sure, Dave. So, I think a lot of, the public might not know this, but of course, everybody on this podcast understand this, how important it is to have SWAT operations in your community. So working with the Illinois State Police, for 32 years and now coming over to DeKalb, I've seen different types of resources when it comes to SWAT. The Illinois State Police had a standalone team, meaning that they were self-supported with Illinois State Police, Chicago Police as well. And you also have the FBI, which is in Chicago. They have a standalone team. Cook County sheriffs have a standalone team. So we had a lot of different, SWAT units in the Cook County area. So growing up in Chicago and working in Chicago my whole career, I was able to see this. I used Illinois State Police SWAT as Colonel Patrol on a regular basis, Dave. A lot of, especially with civil unrest, even our celebrations that we've had with the Cubs, with the Blackhawks, with the Bulls, you always had a SWAT operation involved. So there was always a deployment of our SWAT resources in every one of those situations. And it's very important that they are there. And I know Chief Crease will get into, and Officer Bedoni and Officer Buck will get into the details of what that looks like. But me as who oversaw a lot of these details, Dave, it was so important for me to have a relationship with the head of the SWAT teams who were involved, because at some point their deployment might be critical, and you have to have a rapport with the leaders of those units, and so we can be on the same page on how you want these operations to be carried out if and when those situations occur. So here in DeKalb, a little bit different. We're a multi-agency unit. Like I said, it's not just DeKalb Police Department. You have DeKalb Police Department, DeKalb County Sheriff's Department, Northern Illinois University as well. And there are other departments in DeKalb County. There are a member of the Special Operations Team in DeKalb County. So we had to piece this together, Dave, because like I said, it's very expensive to have a standalone SWAT unit, and just equipment, training, so expensive. So a lot of departments of like my size, which I would say is a middle-sized department, mid-range size department, Dave, we can't afford it just as a standalone unit. So we pieced this together with other agencies within the county, and it works. It does. It's worked here for years. Like I said, I've only been here 3 years, but I know Officer Bedoni can give you details of how it originated and how it works on a daily basis. But I really appreciate them, because I tell you what, Dave, unfortunately, the Cal PD uses the SWAT operation more than any other agency in the county. So we lean on them heavily for their assistance. So very important, Dave. I know everyone on here, we'll try to give the public a good idea what SWAT does without giving away a lot of information, because some of the things that they do, their all their tactics are important that they keep close to the vest. So we're going to give you the best picture we can without giving away any secrets. It's important that they stay protected, and we don't want bad guys knowing what our operations look like, so they can try to circumvent us in any way and cause us to have failed missions and have officers get hurt. So we're going to be very close to the line with this, but I know the officers will be able to give you some insight and give the public some insight of what SWAT operations look like in layman's terms. So,
All right, just want to clean something up. Also, the White Sox championship. You forgot the White Sox. I don't need White Sox.
You're right, Dave. I apologize.
I know it's been a very long time.
They were so bad this year, Dave. I forgot about them. I ain't gonna lie.
I fully 21 losses. Quite impressive. So I just want to throw that out there. And guys, that's a perfect example how Chief Byrd could take a 2-minute answer and turn it into a 5-minute segment. So there's perfect. It's perfect. That's why I had him start. So I'll tell you what. Let's go start with Chief Crease. Then we'll come down to Officer Verdoni and Officer Buck to talk about local. But what NIPUS is kind of like SWAT team on steroids, right? Can you just give our listeners and viewers just quick background of what NIPUS is and try to explain to them when a chief hits that button, what happens?
Sure.
Because I'm in my garage on the 4th of July cleaning it out. Just, I had a free day. All of a sudden I start hearing, I got the garage doors up and getting some fresh air. And I start hearing an explosion of sirens and I don't know what's going on. I go in and my daughter's like, hey, something went down Highland Park. So I'm like, all right, turn on the TV. I'm like, holy smokes. So when all of that went down and Lou hit the button, Chief Jogman up in Highland Park, Lou Jogman, what is NIPUS and what happens?
Yeah, of course. And so NIPUS stands for Northern Illinois Police Alarm System. And it's probably the largest mutual aid law enforcement support system. It's not only a SWAT team, but it's also a public order team, a crowd control team as well. So between both those sides, we have over 100 communities now, part of NIPUS, supported by NIPUS. And it dates back to 1983 when 13 North Shore chiefs got together and realized they were better together than they were alone. And the SWAT team formed about 4 years later. And what a lot of people don't know is after forming in 1987, the first EST, Emergency Services call out for NIPUS was in Winnetka at Hubbard Wood School when I'll say a deranged woman walked in and committed murder in one of the first mass shootings in U.S. history, and an 8-year-old Nick Corwin and 5 other was murdered, and 5 other children were shot during that incident. And that was actually NIPUS EST's first call out. And since then, the level of professionalism and the scope and range of services that can be provided to any one of our member communities is only expanded. So when 4th of July happened, Chief Jogman didn't even have to make the call because Highland Park PD is a member of NIPUS. The radio calls actually overflowed into some of our towns. We knew it happened. I got a call from a neighboring chief that was part of the command team of NIPUS. I'm actually on the board of officers for NIPUS, and we knew Lou needed us. So when we arrived, I was in the command post as Lou arrived, and he just needed to say the magic words, yes, we want NIPUS, but everyone was already rolling and deployed. So it was a very efficient start to a tragic response.
So just to give our listeners and viewers an idea, I was very fortunate to be able to go drop waters off because that's what I do. I called my Chief Kennedy said, hey, can they use water? One of his officers, I followed behind and we dropped off 32 cases of water or whatever it was. So you don't realize the scope of what's happening there. And officers, as far as I believe Palos Park, because I was coming down Deerfield Road to the command post right over the Edens, and there were police cars stationed from south suburban towns that were a half hour, 45 minutes away in like every other street. So it was pretty, I was scary as hell, okay, but it was quite impressive, the show of force when the call went out, the support that came to find this lunatic that shot up Highland Park during the 4th of July. So let's go local here. So Officer Cardone, you're up, work for Chief Byrd. Does his meetings last as long as his explanations on this podcast? You can be honest. It's
No,
fine.
he's a good guy. He's a great guy to work for. Actually, he's probably one of the best bosses, and I'm just saying that because I work for him. But he's one of the best bosses I had. I've worked a number of places, but he's a leader.
All right, we know it's paid. It's Friday. It's payday. Well done. Okay,
No,
so
I'm not. I'm serious.
Well,
I'm straight up.
yeah.
I'm too old. I tell the
we've
truth.
had other people on from your department that have said other things, so that's fine. But so how long have you been on the force? What does SWAT stand for? First of all, so let's clear that up.
So specialized weapons and tactics, but we call it in the county, we call it SOT, which is special operations and tactics. Basically, it's the same thing. It's 6 1/2 dozen of the other.
How long do you have to be on the force to start qualifying to be part of that special organization within the police department?
It's usually about 3 years. 3 more years, you have to go through the interview process. They look at all your range scores to make sure that you're qualified and have the high expectations, especially with the physical fitness, because you don't want somebody who's way overweight to be able to have all that gear on running and shooting.
Got it. Okay, so you've been on the force 3 years. When did you get interested in possibly becoming a member of the SWAT team or SWAT team, whatever you guys call it up there?
I got on the team when I was in Missouri. When I was a trooper there, I was on the job for, I'm trying to think, like 4 years, and then I got on. So I was on their team, and then as soon as I came over here to DeKalb, as soon as I came over, I was able to get on it.
Okay, let's go to Officer Buck. So you seem to be extremely strong. What is your position, and what did you seem like an offensive lineman? So what made you, how long were you on the force before you got interested in your team? And what do you guys call it down there in O'Fallon?
Okay, so we're basically the southern version of NIPIS. So we're a multi-jurisdictional team. We've got probably 15 agencies on our team that contribute manpower to. We've probably got 45 to 50 active members on there. Cover 11 counties on the Illinois side of St. Louis. So, I came to the game late. I did the drug unit thing and kind of came to the SWAT team later in my career. So I, started as the new guy and running gear and driving the truck. And then, eventually came basically the entry team leader for our team. So I'm kind of in charge of the operation when we go inside I don't sit in the truck with like the commander and make those decisions. I'm the on the ground in the building commander. So yeah, once you get started to get spooled up and to be an effective operator, it takes a couple of years of training to really, turn it loose and be a full tier 1 member of the team. There's a tryout process for it, obviously. You have to be qualified in shooting and decision-making scenarios. There's an interview process for our team. So, yeah, that's
all right. No, that's cool. So Chief Crease, you're kind of on the board level now, you're kind of a big shot, because that's what everybody was calling you at the ILACP local meeting in Tinley, hey, big shot, you know, and then you turned around. So, what type of, okay, you got the physical training, right?
Yeah.
You got to be able to obviously be accurate when you're shooting, but you've got to have the right fortitude, if you will, mentally, because that's a pretty high tense, pretty high stress situation. What type of tests do these officers go through, and how do you determine if they're mentally ready to be part of this elite unit?
Yeah, that's a great question. And perhaps it's helpful if we recognize that the fact of the matter is, once a SWAT team deploys, it's probably the safest police encounter that you're ever going to experience. Even though there's a level of danger and risk that generated the call for a SWAT team, once those officers deploy and take control of that perimeter, the likelihood of anyone getting hurt goes way down, because and that's just a fact. And the biggest reason is because of the discipline and the teamwork that it enables the police officers, because at the end of the day, every SWAT officer is a police officer charged with the same commitment to respecting life and using force only when necessary and constitutionally justified. So you mentioned the SWAT show. I grew up watching that in the 70s as well. You know, every scene ended with gas being shot in the building, the bad guy coming out. And, you know, the fact of the matter is, typically SWAT is deployed with a team of negotiators, and will go in and slow everything down and exercise an amount of caution and patience that usually generates a surrender or resolution without any force. As far as selecting those team members, critical that the right people get assigned to this selection. There's a lot of honorable police officers that are very good at a lot of things that just you know, are not going to be selected on a SWAT team. And obviously physical fitness and tactical proficiency with weapons are important, but the most important thing is how they think about a situation. Can they watch something happen and exercise extreme caution because they have the trust that their team member on the other side of the building or the objective has got that, and they will hold their ground. They will resist jumping on the radio and saying unnecessary things. That's really about teamwork. So lots of teams will put their police officers through additional psychological testing. If not, I guarantee there's interviews. And Eric mentioned the scenario training, the scenario tests that we put officers through in the selection process. And just not everyone's well suited for this.
Yeah, like the
Chief
chief said,
Morgan.
the
Oh, I'm
basis
sorry.
the basis of the SWAT teams, as boring as it sounds, unlike TV, is to slow things down and save lives. And a lot of that has to do with our specialized equipment. You know, all these barricaded guys that don't want to go to jail, that say they're going to shoot it out with the police, are pretty tough until that armored truck shows up 3 feet in front of their front door in their front yard and starts breaking windows and pumping gas through their house. You know, they change their tune real quick. But a lot of that, it's a ramp up situation of just showing up on scene first, taking control of it, isolating it, and slowing it down. I mean, that's kind of specific for barricaded people, but you know, it's just one of the.
And if I could add, like he said, like Lieutenant Buck said, it's you know, a lot of people look at these SWAT vehicles and these SWAT and what they're wearing as an escalation of force, when in fact it's de-escalating because of that massive show of force that you have there. They're not actually having to use it most of the time. So, you know, when you look at this and, well, why do you need to have this big car? Why do you need to have this Bearcat show up? Well, a lot of times, like he said, that Bearcat shows up, and instead of that person getting into a shootout, they just surrender. and they walk out. And then that just makes it a de-escalation instead of an escalation.
So I'll throw it to Chief Byrd. You have I'll give you a scenario, right? Because I know all you guys like to role play scenarios and
Sure.
to make you guys stronger and smarter. And when different situations come up, you've got a situation. Well, here, thank God you weren't there. And at Northern, one of my fraternity brothers got killed at Cole Hall.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that was, some lunatic walks out behind, and anybody that hasn't been in Cole Hall, you walk in off the sidewalk there, and it's one of those auditoriums that goes straight down. So you have and the lectern and the stage is at the bottom, and you're kind of in a bowl. So there's really no place. You're kind of done. It's a shooting gallery, and this lunatic comes out behind the black screen there when a teacher was talking and starts shooting up the place, and one of my fraternity brothers jumps on his girlfriend and gets killed. Wasn't even in
Oh.
he wasn't even in the class, damn Parmenter, and he was covered. He just went there because it was her birthday. It was Valentine's Day or something. And
Wow.
he just wanted to be with her, and he covered her up to protect her. Got shot and killed. So obviously that's a SWAT situation, I would assume.
Sure.
So where does the call goes out? Officer Verdone and his crew are whatever they're doing, right? They get the bat call and they start running and they start collecting gear and marshaling up, do whatever you guys do. Where does the chain of command come into play? Are you still as chief of police in this horrific situation? God forbid it ever happens again in any university anywhere in the world. But where does the chain of command? Are you still in command, or do you turn it over to Officer Verdone's team and they take it from there?
Well, in a lot of cases, whoever the officer in charge at that time can make that initial call. I mean, they are assessing the situation. A lot of times, chiefs aren't even on the scene. So you could have, and we try to prepare our own officers from the rank of, like you said, being a police officer on the scene, and also be able to assess these situations and say, hey, this is what I think we need at this time, and let them make that call because they are actually on the scene and they know what they have. So a lot of times it should, you would, in the perfect, scenario, you'll want a sergeant, someone of some rank to be able to assess it. However, sometimes they're not available. Sometimes it's a 20-year officer who's been around a long time, and he can say, hey, look, we got to barricade the subject. This looks like it's going to be a SWAT call. You might want to get on the phone and get them rolling. Because I think what a lot of people don't understand, sometimes like Chuck's working today, so he's available immediately, but there are a lot of officers who are at their homes. Sometimes they're out to eat. Like you talk about the old SWAT show. How many times did Hondo get a call in the middle of dinner and had to take off, right? So you see a lot of that. So I guess what I'm saying, Dave, as chiefs, we of course, get a lot of that, authority falls on us. But also, like I said, sometimes we're not there on the scene and we can't really truly assess what that situation is. So you have to prepare your supervisors and any of your officers to be able to call in and say, hey, chief, this is the situation. We should move on this. Or if they can't get in touch with the chief, you have to make that call to dispatch and say, hey, get them guys rolling. You can always call SWAT off. That's the best part about it. I mean, they'll all respond, Dave. And if you have to make a call to say, hey, we don't need you, he turned himself in. I mean, they can shut everything down and go back to quarters. But so I think everyone in a uniform has to be able to at least assess that situation and make the call. But go ahead, Chief Crease. I know you might have.
No, I think you hit it on the head, and you're making a great point about who's authorized to call, who's authorized to assess the need. I would add to that as it goes up and as it develops into a full-scale deployment. One of the things that caused NIPUS to form, and what makes NIPUS a little different from some other agencies, rather than calling, if I have a crisis in Vernon Hills, rather than calling the state police or the FBI or even the county SWAT team, that jurisdiction would have its own authority. Whereas when a team comes into a stricken agency in a NIPUS community, they are working for the authority of the local jurisdiction. And that's really critical because you don't want a team coming in with the best intentions and then doing something independently. Whether I have a commander or a deputy chief on scene actually being the incident commander, when NIPUS arrives, they will not, I mean, they'll obviously protect themselves, but they won't do any elective maneuver, any elective operation without the local incident commander authorizing that to make sure that at the end of the day, when it's all resolved and the team goes away and cleans their equipment and restocks, it's the local chief that's left answering to the community. And not every jurisdictional system around the county or the country allows for that. And that's one of the things that NIPUS is really proud that local control is critical.
Yeah, we do the same. We do the same on the south, down south. If I were to get called out and I'd take command as a SWAT in a different jurisdiction, I would grab whoever's in charge of that local jurisdiction and have them right by my side and walk them through every decision that we say, hey, if it's a barricade, we're gonna sit in our armored truck and loud hail and negotiate this guy, for so long, and then we'll start introducing and ramping it up. Are you okay with that? I suggest this. This is why we're doing it. Are you okay with that? And so it's a mutual decision making. We're just advising that local jurisdiction who may not be, up and up on the SWAT tactics, but we're there to assist and teach them too. So
yeah, and even when I was with ISP, Dave, when I was a captain of the District of Chicago, so anytime Illinois State Police deploys SWAT, they send the captain from that district, wherever that area is, and he responds because he has to be able to have, like you said, control over that unit, at least for their deployment, even though they're assisting someone else. Like Chief Crease said and Officer Buck said, Lieutenant Buck said, at the end of the day, we're here to help, but we can't make that. We don't want to take any action without the chief of that city, because he has to account for everything. And like Chief Crease said, when it's over, all the cameras are on that chief, and they're going to say, hey, you authorized this, why did you do A, B, C, and D? So you definitely have to be on the same page. And in Illinois, at least the situations I've been in, we've always had a really cohesive working environment where people actually understand that we're here to help, especially with state police, because you come in, like I said, you're a state agency, we're always really there to assist in most cases. So we want to make sure that the chiefs, have the action that they want to be taken to be approved and authorized, so they can get in front of a camera and be accountable for it.
One of the things, and I want to ask you, Officer Verdoni, and I want to apologize to Lieutenant Buck for calling him an officer earlier, because I don't want to get my ass kicked from Everett O'Fallon. But Officer Verdoni, how do you guys? And the one thing I learned from the 4th of July event up in Highland Park was fire is involved in this as well. So when NIPUS went out, I mean, you had fire trucks from different suburbs, 15, 20 miles away. You had a pontoon boat. How do you guys interact with fire? And, because if something's happening, you've got the ambulances there. And when you send an ambulance, typically, most of the times you have to send a truck with the ambulance, whatever the rules are with fire. But how do you guys interact with fire with your training?
We do a lot of it with the rapid deployment stuff that we do. We incorporate the fire department. They come for a couple hours just to see how we go from a hot zone to a warm zone to a cold zone into a staging area. But like I said, these firemen are probably going to save my life if I get shot. So they're our best friend, no matter what. We don't act like we're better than them. If we do have a call out, we usually stage them well far away so that they're safe. And like I said, they have rifle plates and stuff like that, just in case if anything does go sideways.
So what is your position? We got Chief Crease up there, who's sitting up there, Big Daddy, in charge on the board of all that stuff. So where do you come into play with your team?
Me, I'm just basically entry aid sniper. So our team leader is Ben Hyatt, who is he's on ILEAS also, which they go throughout the the Northern Illinois area and do their stuff. But he's basically the one who is in charge of us, including like all the Chief Bird, Sheriff Sullivan, and then the lieutenant above us is Pettingale.
So here, I'll throw it to Lieutenant Buck and Chief Crease. With the event, the unfortunate event that happened in Butler with the attempted assassination of our prior president, Trump, there was a communication, obviously a lack of communication, right? You had the snipers looking over there with the spotters and the guy with the gun, gigantic gun. And, thank God he took out the assailant before he killed any more people than he killed or injured any more people. Thank God he didn't kill President Trump. But what type of communication are you guys have? We'll start with Lieutenant Buck and we'll go to Chief Crease up here. So how are you guys communicating with each other? If a sniper's needed, how are you telling Officer Verdone to take the shot? I mean, who's making those decisions and how's all that going down?
Well, that stuff in Pennsylvania is one of the reasons why it's very tricky to integrate two or different elements of a SWAT team. You had the Secret Service, obviously, that didn't get that squared away, that should have, and then you had their local assets. If that was just given to probably a local asset, that would not have happened. From what I understand, the Secret Service didn't have a briefing. They didn't get everything squared away. They were very, they didn't do their job, from what I understand. So I've never been on a presidential detail. We've had VIP, and stuff like that come in, and they task local assets as basically in our region. The Secret Service would do the VIP protection and all that counter sniper stuff, and they would just kind of use our local assets as like quick reaction forces in case crowd events happen, active shooter in the crowd, something like that. But yeah, so like if that were tasked to just us in one agency, one SWAT team, we would obviously have a briefing. We would appoint different, responsibilities. We would set up all the snipers, and all that communications is pre-planned out. The amount of planning that would go into that from one agency, one SWAT team would be astronomical if the president was coming and it was tasked just us. But that failed because the Secret Service was not up to speed and didn't obviously get jobs and responsibilities sorted out with the local assets there.
Got it. I'll throw it to Chief Crease. So Chief Crease, let's take it, not a presidential detail. It's just You've got some mentally deranged individual keeping people hostage, threatening to kill people. You've got Officer Verdone ready. He's got a beat on the assailant. Where's the communication and how is all that done?
Sure. Well, to be clear, the idea that the sniper is waiting for the command to shoot is a very, very rare instance. It would be used in a very finite set of particular tactical problems. In most cases, when you have a marksman, a precision marksman, watching the scene, if they're discharging their weapon, it's because they are a police officer. They recognize that there is a need to use deadly force to stop the imminent threat to another human being. It's no different than a patrol officer with their pistol defending someone else's life or their own life on the street. In most cases, when you have a marksman taking a shot or any SWAT officer discharging their firearm, it's because they are a police officer, they see an immediate threat to life, and they act to stop it. Now, communication is critical, and at the team level, they're obviously, everyone on the team has to be informed of what's going on. They know their role, and typically they're passing information on so that more command decisions and ideas can be developed, so that if we elect to take action, we can do so with the most amount of information. But Dave, you also brought up the idea of the big scene. What overlays all of this is the incident command system that is critical to be organized, and SWAT being just one element of that. So in Highland Park, the command post had 100 professionals working at any given time, just organizing the different components of that response. And clearly things went really bad and broke down. I've been a part of several presidential and presidential candidate and vice presidential visits over the years, and we are, as professionals, just dumbfounded about the failures there. But I can tell you, typical operations plan for that level of interagency cooperation.
I'll end it on funding. So you've got an officer, Chief Byrd, you got Officer Cardone, Chief Ugelman, you've got Lieutenant Buck. I'll never make that mistake again, especially when I'm within 100 miles of O'Fallon. And then you've got Chief Crease. Where's all this money coming from to fund these vital organizations that protect the public against things they never even think about, or situations that they never even dreamed of? So I'll start O'Fallon, Illinois. It's not the biggest megatropolis out there. DeKalb, I know DeKalb very well. I went to college there. Okay, I live in the North Shore, so I'm very familiar with what Chief Crease is working with NIPUS. So where's all this money coming from? Is it coming from the state? Is it coming from local? Is it coming from federal? We'll start with Chief Brugman, because you said the fewest words on this call, which is quite impressive.
I know.
I mean, you're right up there typically with Chief Byrd for the most words on a podcast award every week. So I'll throw it over to you.
You know, part of being a good leader is knowing what your strengths are and what your strengths are not. And that's not my strength. Finances are sometimes my strength, but you know, so our team is ILEAS, Illinois Law Enforcement Alarm System, which is basically, we get some federal funding, we get some state funding, but a lot of it, you know, we spend money on. So we'll buy equipment for our officers. We get refunded for when they go to their trainings, and you know, we get paid back from the state, from ILEAS, for when they go to their trainings or when they go to something, an approved call out. But the majority of our SWAT call outs are part of a Metro East SWAT team that uses the same structures. So we just cover that. We cover the overtime. We feel like it's our responsibility to help all of our neighboring agencies where we don't maybe have as many SWAT call outs or search warrants. You know, it's part of our job as a bigger agency to help out with some of our smaller agencies. You know, one of the things too that a lot of these SWAT operators do is they're buying their own equipment, because they are so passionate about it. They love it so much that they're just going out and spending their own money on all of this equipment, all this stuff that they're carrying, all these things, these life-saving things. A lot of times these guys and gals, they're doing this all on their own. So it's very worthwhile cause, and we have some amazing people doing this work.
Chief Byrd?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Chief Brugman as well. I mean, you got grants out there too, Dave, federal grants that you can apply for, state grants. So, you know, we try to put our name in the hat for any free money. We're putting our name in there. I'm just going to tell you that right now. And then, of course, we have we have line items within our budget that we prepare for, you know, every year to actually support all our SWAT services and our support services. But like Chief said, I'm sure Chuck can say he spent a lot of money on some of his equipment. As a chief of police, if I can ever reimburse them for some of these major purchases, I'll do it. You know, if I have some kind of surplus in my budget for whatever reason, if that's something that we can circle back to and reimburse them for, you know, for those significant charges, so, and I know there's certain things that we want them to have the best equipment though, Dave. Let's just be honest. That's our job as chiefs, to make sure that they have the best equipment so they can do their job effectively and safely. So, if we can reimburse them, Dave, we do it all the time. So that's just our job.
Chief Crease, what, big area?
Yeah.
Just the equipment alone, there had to be the alphabet soup of bulletproof vests, DEA, ATF, FBI. I mean, it's just ISP, because everybody was wearing their slickers and had their bulletproof vests on. I'm like, it was just, hope I never see it again, but it was quite impressive. That's a gigantic organization to run. So where does all the money come from to fund what you guys are doing up north?
Yeah, it's a combination. We mentioned grants. ILEAS reimburses and has provided grants from federal dollars for much of our large items, like our command vehicles, our armored vehicles. We can spend $300,000 on one armored vehicle, and we have several of those ready to go, pre-stationed around the suburbs, so that because again, that's a lifesaver when we can get a piece of armor there. But at the individual level, most of us really try to respect and not have officers. I should say we're in a position to provide our officers the equipment, but it's between $15,000 and $20,000 to equip a single SWAT officer newly assigned to the team. And then when you add all of their time that they're committing to training throughout the year and all the call outs and all the other stuff, it's about another $20,000 a year for every operator, for every team member on the team. So we charge our members, every participating agency pays a membership due to contribute to that, to fund our budget that we oversee, and then they pay for their officer. And so if Vernon Hills, or if Highland Park or Buffalo Grove or Oak Brook Terrace needs a 100-person team, they make one phone call, everyone comes organized, and guess what? They don't have a bill for that expense. It doesn't matter that those 100 officers were there for 6 hours. They never get charged for that. That's something that the individual agencies know, that's the cost of providing someone to the team, and that's the insurance that we are paying for when we need it. And God forbid another town needs it as bad as Highland Park needed it on July 4th. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Well, crazy things seem to happen around the holiday times. Remember when Jimmy Kruger, that shooting at Oak Brook?
Yes.
Right. He's at home. I'm buddies with Jimmy, as probably most of you guys are. He's having dinner with his wife, and he's like, what? He hears about it, puts his blues on, and runs out to the mall. So that was, another situation where all hands on deck was placed, and you guys jumped to that occasion as well. We're going to end it with the two, with Lieutenant Buck and Officer Verdoni. Walk us through what's the coolest piece of equipment that you bought for yourself as part of the SWAT team, and what is it, from your own words, from your own experiences, that you want our listeners and our viewers to understand what goes through your head, and what you guys do with your teams. So we'll start with authority here, rank. Lieutenant Buck, what's the coolest piece of equipment that you bought for yourself?
Ooh,
As a member of the SWAT team.
I mean, our primary weapon systems are rifles. So, we take care of them, and that goes with me. I've got we work in a lot of, we rarely do search warrants on 5,000 square foot, 50,000 square foot houses. They're 5,000 square foot houses. So I've got a 10.5-inch, short barrel rifle that's well taken care of. That's my baby. So,
Hey, and just so we know, I'm not that cheap that I make them buy their own rifles. We did buy the rifle for them.
You got to get them on the right day, but if you get them on the right day, he'll
ATM machine.
Yeah. But what was the second part of your question?
What's the one thing that you would like all of our listeners and viewers to know about your team? And if a SWAT team pulls up, just give us the behind the scenes that you want our listeners and viewers, something that they might not know about SWAT and your team.
The selection process and the training, we really train hard together. to be cohesive and know what each other is going to do. And for that reason, you know, we vet the members real hard, and we try to avoid, you know, what I like to call the t-shirt guys, that just want to show up with the brand new equipment to get the SWAT t-shirt, but yet are never on any, you know, we go to 50 to 60 call outs a year. The t-shirt guys only show up to the few that are at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. These guys are ghosts when the 2 a.m. call outs happen, that sort of stuff. So, you know, the guys that are the more senior guys that have dedicated a lot of time, I've been a part of the team for 8 years now. We really try to vet to avoid the t-shirt guys and identify them as early on in the process, and find somebody that's going to be dedicated, because these call outs are never convenient. They're never at a convenient time. They're always when you're with your family or out to dinner, cold nights, long hours, that sort of thing. So, you know, that it's not glamorous work, and it takes a lot of dedication. I guess that's kind of what a lot of people don't realize. We're not just sitting in a truck, like waiting for the phone to ring. It's most of the SWAT teams in Illinois, they're out with their families doing stuff when these inconvenient call outs happen. A lot of dedication by these guys, to show up when they need to show up.
I apologize for my German Shepherd, who's seeing the same gardening crew for the past 3 years going crazy. So I apologize for that. So Officer Verdone, take us out here. You know, can you confirm that Chief Burt is a plate picker when you go out to lunch with him? Will he reach over and pick things off your plate to try it because he's in command and he knows you won't say anything? Is that accurate, or is that just a fallacy?
Fallacy.
Okay. So yeah, we've got other reports saying that it's not, it's 100% fact. So if you were to say the coolest piece of equipment that you purchased, number one, and to end it, what would you like our listeners and viewers to know about what's happening within your specific team as part of your SWAT organization?
I'd say, like, obviously my rifle, because that's our tool we use. If we're a carpenter, you're gonna have a good hammer, right? So it's the same thing. You want to have good tools that are working. So you spend money for the quality. You're not gonna buy a Black & Decker when you get into DeWalt or a Milwaukee.
Oh, there goes the Black & Decker sponsorship. Nice job. Way to go.
My bad.
Okay, we had them on the hook. They were right there. Now we got a nice job. All right, way to go, Officer DeWalt.
Harbor Freight.
I mean, Officer Verdone. Whatever. Go ahead.
But like the LT was saying, it's just like when we roll up or when we pull up, how many times do you see any of the SWAT officers joking and smoking and joking with everybody? No, most of the time when we show up, it's serious, and we want to resolve the situation because we're serious. We know what the goal is. And all our guys in our team, we're always on the same page. We get briefed before every single call out. We obviously have body cameras, stuff like that. But usually when we roll up, there's a reason why we're there. There's a threat to the community. And most of the time the community's pretty good about it. Sometimes we get some people that come out and kind of gawk and stuff like that. But for the most part, since Chief Burt's taken over as the chief here, he's changed the community a lot compared to what it was before.
All right. And then I said I'd end it with the two with Lieutenant Buck and Officer Verdone, but let's end it with you, Chief Crease, because you did such a great job today. What would you like from our listeners to know as one of the big guys here, you know, in leadership in NIPUS, to know about what's actually happening on the teams and what the men and women do in the training, and, you know, what we don't know that you'd like everybody to know?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think Lieutenant Buck nailed it. People really don't know how hard these men and women work, and a lot of it on their own time. These are not clock watchers. These are not people saying, hey, am I on overtime yet? I mean, these are people that want to push one another to be the very best police officer they can be, the best tactician they can be. Every year we have a meeting with all of the NIPUS agencies. The operators are there, the chiefs are there, and here's what I always say to the group: and I believe this, that when the public needs help, they call 911. And when police need help, they call SWAT. And that level of commitment and preparation to help your fellow professional in their hardest challenge brings a level of professional satisfaction that's the paycheck for these guys that are up in the middle of the night, racing to the scene in bad weather, not asking any question other than how I can help. And the level of dedication, what they put into the job, I think most people just don't really have an appreciation for it. So,
Well, thank you all. And I can tell you firsthand of seeing it again with what happened on the 4th of July, being right there at the command center, dropping the waters off. I'm sure you were inside doing 1,400 things with the other officers there. But thank you guys, Lieutenant Buck, for you and your team, Officer Verdone. Thank you and your team, obviously Chief Crease, for everything that you guys do. If God forbid something happens up here, I know we're protected. And after seeing what I saw and experiencing what I experienced during that horrific 4th of July day, and my German Shepherd going crazy here, I think the men and women and the residents of Illinois are in great hands with Officer Verdone and Lieutenant Buck running the organizations, and Chief Crease. And thank you, Chief Brueggemann and Chief Bird, for volunteering your team to tell us and talk to us about what they do and educate the viewers and listeners of this podcast. So thanks for listening. Again, this podcast is sponsored by me, Team Hochberg. If you're looking to purchase a new home, refinance your existing home, give us a call. We appreciate it. 855-56-DAVID. Go to 56david.com and listen to Home Sweet Home Chicago on Saturdays and WGN 10 until 1. Gentlemen, thank you. And you tell your team members thank you on behalf of me and all the residents of Illinois. I'm the unofficial official spokesperson for everybody in Illinois for everything that you guys do every day.